So I'm listening to everybody today, whether it's the Draymond conversation that we just had, or a lot of the Klay Thompson commentary on Draymond's podcast, which we will play for you momentarily. And yes, his dad is going to join us in an hour, and I'm going to be straight with everybody. It's been a long time coming to get my ex-radio partner back on the air, and I do think part of that has been just his life, our lives, whatnot, as far as how things have kind of unfolded the last handful of months. But I also do think, and he has not told me this, but I do think there have been a number of days over the last 6 months where I've reached out to Michael and say, hey, come on the show. And he's like, I can't because, we're traveling. And I'm like, right, they have phones in other cities also.
Right.
Your cell phone works. But I get it. You don't want to talk about this right now because your son is in a spot where it's not your place to come make news based on what you have to say about him being on the bench to start the game or whatever. Well, today's the day, and I can't wait to talk to him about it. But I was just also thinking about this. Did you hear when Priest called in about an hour and a half ago?
Missed it, yeah.
Okay. I know you know Priest. And Priest, if you're listening.
You don't know Priest.
There you go. We love our everyday crew. And Priest was kind of talking, because Steiny and Goo were arguing about the whole positivity, negativity thing. And when someone believes in the Warriors, Dibs, I think they can make a run.
Yeah.
All right. There's a portion of the fan base that gets very upset. They want you to be realistic. They want you to remain in reality. And this is what Pierce called in and goes, you're not...
Priest, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You're not staying at, not a priest, just Priest.
Right.
You're not, we get upset when you believe in this team because you're not living in reality. And here's the question that popped into my head. It's sort of twofold. A, why does anyone think that they know what reality is? That's kind of a larger, eclectic question. But here's the reality one, or the real one, when you get to the offseason. I want to ask that fan who thinks that positive Warrior fan is being unrealistic. What if I fired right back at you and said, no, you're being unrealistic? Because you think there's a move they can make. And there isn't. I am so married. I'm just listening to everybody for the 1,000th day in a row talk about Steph, Klay, and Dre. And I started thinking about this. This is what we do. And I don't even just mean the media. All the fans. These are the stories we know. These are the people we know. They are the players we love. You love them, you hate them, you love them, you hate them, you rip them, you adore them. All of that. I'm not ready for that to go away. I don't want that to go away. I don't think any of you are ready for that to go away. I said 2 weeks ago on one of our shows, the big three is not the big three anymore. And everyone went, oh, Mark wants to move on from the big three. Name my book. I didn't say that. What I said was it's time for their roles to evolve. Doesn't mean I don't want them on the Warriors. I think there's next to zero chance that they're not on the Warriors next year. And that's exactly the way it should be and the way I want it, because these are the people we know. And I don't think there's another move to make.
Well, I think that you're more likely to make a move in the offseason than you are to, quote, go on a run. And so whatever you think your reality is, your reality can be yours because we don't yet know how this is going to go. And you can look at the odds and see the Warriors are 60-1 to win the NBA championship. And you can look at that, and the implied odds are they have about a, 2.5% chance to win the NBA championship.
That feels high, by the way.
Right. Well, whatever it is. And the odds will get better if they win 2 games in the play-in and then they get into a series. Their odds to win the NBA championship would go down. But right now, according to FanDuel, they're at 60-1. They have the 13th best odds to win the NBA championship. They're ahead of, they're tied with New York, ahead of New Orleans, ahead of the cute little Sacramento, ahead of Orlando.
Adorable.
And all the rest of it. But I think it's more likely that they make a move in the offseason, but they may neither go on a run nor make a move in the offseason. But if you believe either one of those things, you can believe it. You have full license as a Warrior fan to believe what you want to believe until it's disproven to be factual.
Totally. But that bothers some people.
And that's, I mean, maybe
It
we
does.
can talk about that, why it bothers some people. Like for me, I look at this Warrior team right now, and I don't think they're going to go on a run.
Okay.
I do think that they could. I'd give them a 50-50 chance to make it out of the play-in game, winning 2 games. I think if they play,
that's a good
if they play
percentage.
Sacramento in the 9-10, I would say they're going to be favored in Sacramento. I believe they would be favored
by
3.5, whatever.
Okay, all right.
If they then play the loser of New Orleans and LA, let's say, on the road, I'd give them a 40 to 45% chance to win that game. So 2 games, can you win 2 games that are both coin tosses? Absolutely.
Yeah, you can.
Can you
Sure.
then go out and win a best of 7 against the number 1 seed? That I would put it more like a 15% chance, 10 to 15% chance, let alone to win 3 more series and win the NBA championship.
No doubt. What they, and I think that even, like Steiny was talking about that a short time ago. He's like, this is, you're underselling what it is you're saying they would have to do.
Right.
And I don't even disagree with that. Like, I sit over here sort of, and I hate that this doesn't sound good, but like, it's sort of like having one foot in both buckets, where it's like, do I think that they're about to do something special? No, I don't think they are. Do I believe they could? Sure.
Of course.
Why not? Belief is free.
Right.
Why not? What are you getting? And so that's, I guess, my question.
Right.
Those of you who are on the that's not realistic train, what are you getting out of not believing, and why does it bother you when people do? Now, I threw this question around. We were talking to people earlier. Lucas and I were on the phone talking about it, and his answer is the one that I think most people will go to, which is that belief is dangerous because it could, like if the team actually believes, the front office believes, it's going to stop them from moving on too early. It's going to stop them from making those changes that they need to make so that they can be good again. And that's where my response comes in and goes, now you're being unrealistic. What is this move that y'all want to make?
Well, you don't know until everything else works itself out. And one thing Bonte was talking about this morning, which of course is the dream scenario, it's Giannis. It's Milwaukee with a flame out, and it's you make a move for Giannis. And I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to sit here on April 9th as a guy who's living in the moment. I'm geared up for a Laker game tonight.
Yep.
But that is the conversation that will be had in the offseason if Milwaukee flames out early, which is what it looks like Doc Rivers is headed to do again because that's what he does. That's what fans will be clamoring for.
But you're immediately thinking that means Giannis is gonna talk his way out of Milwaukee.
Right. There's a lot of
They
things
flamed
that
out
are
in the first round last year.
There are a lot of things that would have to happen for that to even be a possibility.
And I find that what you just said, like give me two lanes, one lane, not the college, 2 lanes.
Thank you.
We got we got one lane that's this Warrior group, largely this core, still does something in the NBA. This year, next year.
What does that mean?
Something.
Does something. Makes it to the NBA Finals?
Go on a run.
So you need to define that before I can answer.
Conference Finals.
Okay.
Conference Finals. This group, largely, you're going to tweak every year, but this core.
The big 3.
Well, I mean, are they the big 3 now? There's Kuminga, there's Wiggins,
there's
big
other personalities.
Yeah,
I say the big 3, so it's a reference point to Steph, Clay, and Dre.
Is that what's more realistic? That they go to the conference finals again, or the parlay of Milwaukee loses in the first round, Giannis gets ticked off and talks his way out of town. The Warriors is where he decides he wants to go. The Warriors have a deal that they're able to make this even work with finances. And Giannis and Steph, both making north of $50 million, can fit on the same team, and Lacob says yes.
Well, Lacob would say yes.
What sounds more realistic to you?
That doesn't sound as realistic.
I think going on a run is way more realistic.
Well, and going on a run to the NBA Finals, I think, would be a better way to compare the two things because I think they're both wildly, outlandishly unexpected. Now, the other part of it is you coming to terms with what you think is going to be the future of the big 3, and that you said there's a near 0% chance that they move off of Clay or Draymond, certainly not Steph in the offseason. That to me is an interesting way to look at it, because if you don't make it out of the play-in, are you really going to look at this team as Joe Lacob and say, yeah, let's bring everybody back? Because if you bring Clay back at the price that probably would work for him, a pay cut of about 50%, you're out of money if you want to stay below the tax.
Not necessarily. There are other moves to make.
Not many.
Well, but you can make them.
Right.
I mean,
you got an Andrew Wiggins move that many people, myself included, would love to make.
Okay. So there you go. There are.
That's a move that.
I just look at it this way. There are always ways to manipulate money, including something Joe Lacob has already done before, saying, I'm not spending that much, and then spending that much.
Right.
So you can always, now I don't know that you can mess with it to the point of like Giannis and Steph can play together, we could put a team around them. I mean,
they're in jeopardy of losing future draft picks now if they continue to be above the second apron. And that was a part of the new CBA where if you're a repeat second apron offender, you lose your first round draft pick.
So why are we talking about other max players?
I'm just telling you that in the offseason, the people who think that they can make this thing happen are talking about Giannis. And I was listening to the roast today, and the name Giannis was brought up.
Right, but it was brought up on that backdrop. Milwaukee loses in the first round, and he gets mad.
Right.
I don't know is that a discussion point in Wisconsin, America? I've not heard that. They already made a coaching change, which I'm sure was based probably on his demands or thoughts.
And how'd that work out for him?
Not well.
Yeah.
They've already got Dame Lillard. I'm sure that was based on his demands and his thoughts. They're giving him absolutely everything that he wants. And he's never come off to me like an Anthony Davis type. This is a guy that lost in the first round last year and started getting mad at the media for wanting him to be more cutthroat about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Instead, he got super up in the clouds about it and was like, no, this is our group and we're family and we try and sometimes it doesn't work. And that's how, I don't know, man. That's all I'm saying today. Don't get mad at Unrealistic Warrior fan and respond by saying, that's dangerous being unrealistic. Because if you're unrealistic, that's going to do away with this other unrealistic thing that we could do. I don't see it. Do I see a Warrior run? Probably not. Do I see some, let's just dump the bucket on the floor, put it all back together with a new puzzle that's got some 27-year-old star that can now be on the Warriors with Steph? I don't see that existing either.
That to me is more likely than you go on a run.
Ugh.
And I don't know what that would entail, but I do know that the owner is pretty passionate about not being a lottery team anymore. And you are potentially 8 days away from being a lottery team again.
I am very, very passionate about winning the lottery, but I haven't yet. And some keep telling me that it's unrealistic. Powerball was $1.3 billion. I went for it.
Did you?
Some dude in Oregon won. I'd like to meet him. I'm upset because my unrealistic hopes, they remained.
Those hopes are far more unrealistic than the Warriors landing Giannis.
Not much.
Much, much, much more.
Not much.
Yeah, you can do the odds on that.
I know. Well, I don't even know. What are the odds of the Warriors landing Giannis?
Probably less than 1 in a million. Maybe one in 100,000.
878,000.
Maybe that.
Okay.
I'll give you that, somewhere in there.
All right. So
it's pretty unlikely.
I'll buy that Giannis to the Warriors is more likely than me winning Powerball, but I will not buy that it is more likely than this Warrior team going on a run. How about that?
Right. And going on a run, to me, is more than just winning two series.
Okay.
Going on a run would be winning the NBA championship. That's a run.
Well, but maybe next year, this exact or a similar group has more things go their way, and they are 7 games better than they are right now.
Right.
And that puts them in the top 3 seeds and boogie time. I don't know. Feels more realistic than Giannis to me. So that's all. All I'm saying today is don't get mad at unrealistic by responding with more unrealistic. Don't do that.
I think don't get mad at unrealistic, period. If people want to be unrealistic, then
I'm with you.
If you want to open yourself up to disappointment, if the Warriors, get the 9 or the 10 and they lose that game, do it. That's what being a sport